Welcome to Promo Insiders, a counselor podcast that covers the issues that matter most to the promotional products industry, from hard-hitting news to fun trends. I'm Teresa Hegel, Executive Editor of Digital Content at ASI, and today I'm joined by Chris Ruvo, Executive Editor of Counselor Magazine. So today we're going to be talking about one of Chris's stories that's up on our website already. It's about 21 predictions for 2021 in the promotional products industry. So it's a really long but interesting piece of content. We've got lots of information for people on there, and I have some questions for Chris. He's going to go over some of these interesting findings, because you actually talk to a lot of the leaders in the promotional products industry. It's not just what we're coming up with out of our own.
That's a great point. It's this isn't us saying that we know everything and this is what's going to happen. We did a ton of research with some leading industry executives from top 40 companies, right down to your mom and pop distributorships, to get a real kind of plurality of perspectives about what folks in our industry are seeing firsthand and what they feel is kind of in the cards for 2021. And then in keeping with that 21 concept, we kind of broke them out. Even though the story itself is long, we broke them out into 21, very digestible, bite-sized kind of, hey, this is going to happen. Here's why. So you could kind of go and you can choose as you like.
Yeah, I mean, it's an easy to read story with tons of information that people are going to want to know about. And before we get started, I just wanted to mention that we're looking forward to people commenting, asking questions, whatever you want to do. And people who comment will have kind of be entered into the chance to win a food gift from Maple Ridge Farm. So if that's not incentive enough, I don't know what is.
Tasty.
Their food is yummy. So feel free to chime in the comments with anything you want to know, or any comments or observations you have. So starting out, so how will the current surge in COVID impact the promo industry? Obviously, things are going back up again, and I guess in many places worse than they were in the summertime. So what's that going to mean for promo?
Yeah, so obviously that's, I think, a huge question on everybody's mind at the moment, and I think the biggest takeaway that I heard from a ton of different people is that, yes, is this great? No, it's not great, and it is going to have to a degree an impact on our industry, but it shouldn't be anywhere near as impactful as it was when we first had wide scale lockdowns in the spring. Part of the reason for that is there's a sense that many companies were already still kind of functioning in what I would call, quote, COVID mode. So they've already started to adapt to the reality of they're not having live events. They're not having in-person recruitment initiatives. They're not going to, sponsor a local 5K or whatever it might be. So they've been finding other ways to market, and promotional products distributors have done a very good job on the whole of finding ways to insinuate themselves into those marketing efforts. So as a result, a lot of the marketing efforts are, to a degree, are already kind of accounting for COVID and various restrictions that are in place. So there's a sense that there's not going to be like a dramatic drop off a cliff the way that we saw in the spring through these last few months of the year. Another big reason for that is it is holiday gifting season. It's been a heck of a year, to say the least. And a lot of companies do have some budget to spend still, especially because they have unused money that they didn't use earlier this year. So they are investing that in drop shipments, in your direct mail gifts, which I know everybody's doing at scale this year. So those kind of initiatives are going to continue through the end of probably what we would call the next 4 to 5 weeks. Once we hit Christmas, it's pretty much over. But expect the next some odd weeks to be busy with that kind of activity still. So this surge, as scary as it is from a personal and health perspective, and as scary as it will be for some of your clients, it shouldn't have the kind of dramatic impact that happened in the spring. Q1's a little bit of a different story, because it's traditionally promo's slowest quarter. You don't have holiday gifting to prop things up, but there is also a sense that with some of these vaccines close to coming online and feeling that they're going to really start to come online in a big way in Q1, that there's going to be a psychological effect that brands are going to say, okay, bad things are going on at the moment. but there's an end to this. There's a sliver of sun on the horizon, and we can't just pull everything in and go into a cave right now. We have to get ready for that and kind of keep some kind of marketing push out there, advertising push. And obviously, if you're smart about it as a promo distributor, you can fit into that.
Yeah. Well, I'm curious, everyone listening in, what you guys are doing for Q1, if you have plans, because I know it's traditionally, a slower period. So if you guys have anything interesting or new you're trying, let us know in the comments. I am curious about that. So moving on to PPE, which is kind of like the savior of 2020 for a lot of people in the industry. But what do you think is going to be the role it has in 2021? What are people saying about PPE going forward?
So the common consensus is PPE is not going away. It's going to be here for our industry for a while. However, don't expect the kind of gigantic windfall orders that you might have seen in the spring. Couple reasons for that. Number one, supply chains for traditional PPE were so stressed in the spring that places like hospitals and government agencies couldn't get product from their traditional suppliers, right? So Promo stepped in and was able to do large scale bulk orders of those kinds of things. It kept business moving. Those supply chains, those traditional supply chains, have to a large degree caught up. Also, when we talk about bulk supply of PPE, a lot of companies have already stocked up. A lot of larger distributors that have done a ton with PPE through this year told us that Q2 toward the middle of Q2 was kind of huge. It was still strong in Q3, but tapered, and there's been even more of a tapering in Q4. There's kind of a sense that you're going to continue to see into 2021 a tapering, or at least a steadiness to PPE, but it's going to be a lot more kind of tailored to our industry, where they're not going to come to you for gigantic bulk orders, most likely of blank stuff. It's going to be more like, hey, we're hiring new people or whatever it might be, and as part of the welcome package, they're going to get a branded pull, and there's going to be a mask to go with it, right? Or like, hey, we want to give them sanitizer to show, or we want to give an antimicrobial, a pen that has treated with antimicrobial stuff, or any kind of product that fits into that antimicrobial category, that where it's helping to keep people safe and sanitized, with branding on it, will continue to be relevant. It's just these gigundous orders that some were doing.
Is that a technical term?
That's it. Yeah, it definitely is. That's the word that came up. Ginormous, I think, was another one. Those we're not going to see. We're not going to see those probably on the scale that we did.
Well, something else I think to think about is, branded masks. Obviously, the cloth masks are still pretty big, but I think that distributors need to educate their clients too that those don't last forever, even though they're washable. People should probably be changing those out. So maybe that's an opportunity to kind of go back to some of those clients who had gone to earlier on, who wanted a branded mask, and tell them, like, look, those need to be kind of changed out as they start to, get looser or worn or whatnot. So maybe a good opportunity is like, okay, this is going on longer than we thought. Maybe it's time to refresh with like a new round of cloth masks, of branded masks.
Yeah, totally agree. That opportunity will be ongoing, like I was saying, for sure.
Yeah. So how will promo sales fare overall in 2021?
Okay, so common consensus is they're going to be better than in 2020. Thank God, right? We've seen 3 straight quarters of decline relative to year-over-year sales. I don't think that's a shock to anybody. But there's a feeling that we're as a country, and as a functioning economy, we've found ways to adapt and keep business going to a degree, and that's not going to go away. And that, as kind of I alluded to earlier, as these vaccines come online and we start to see a little bit more comfort in moving around, business activity will continue to churn, and that's going to be good for promo. That said, while most are anticipating 2021 to be better than 2020, we're probably not going to be anywhere near. I shouldn't say anywhere near, but we're not going to get to the 2019 levels. So ASI data showed that in 2019, distributors' collective sales were just a little bit under 26 billion. I think it was 25.8 billion. That was a record, and we're probably not going to be near that level again. That said, though, there are those who are extremely optimistic about what the second half of next year will look like. So they're under this kind of line of reasoning or logic, and there's a lot of major executives who think this way, that they say, okay, it's still going to be a bit of a slog, Q1, early Q2. But boy, we start to really get widespread distribution of vaccines. We're getting back into the warmer months where it seems like people could be outside, and maybe it's not as advantageous to viral spread. And at that point, you now have a lot of our traditional markets really kind of coming back online and looking to market in a big way. So, your hospitality, your education, sports, all those ones now, they're going to want to invest, and you could see, some feel, a real explosion in activity over, say, the Q3 and latter half of Q2, Q3, and then really accelerating nicely in Q4, which is some might say that's pie in the sky. I actually don't think so, because there's, I'm not saying it's definitely going to happen, but there's a lot of sound reasoning as to why it might happen, and developments in society, in the marketplace, that support that kind of sales takeoff for the second half of next year. Even with that, though, we're not getting back to 2019 levels, most likely.
Right. Mm-hmm. But I mean, I guess the thing is, with that giant kind of drop off, earlier this year, mm-hmm. That means that anything getting closer to, where we were, not where we were before, but just back mm-hmm. to like kind of equilibrium, is going to be a good thing.
Yes, I mean, for sure.
Yeah. I'm wondering, what everyone else listening, what you guys are thinking, about next year. Are you guys optimistic? Are you worried? Do you see a bright spot? Or, who's glass half full, who's glass half empty? What is everyone thinking? We have a question from Melissa. She wants to know, out of all the research you did for this incredible piece, mm-hmm. buttering you up a little bit, but what was the most surprising prediction?
Most surprising. Well, that's a good question. Let me think. You know what? Actually, I have one. One of the ones, and I was going to cover this later, but we'll jump into it now, is that there's a fear among some that inventory stockpiles of various types of product, PPE to other things, might have reached such level due to lack of sales that you could have a flood of like real discount rate, cut rate stuff onto the market, which maybe bodes good for some distributors, but it would not bode well for certain suppliers who are trying to sell on quality and brand name. And there's also a fear that the traditional supply chain in promo, which we all know, supplier, distributor, and client, is more under threat than ever before. Because of that stock to a degree. They need mm-hmm. You need to move product. You're sitting on this, so it becomes a lot more attractive to start a website and just try to retail shirts direct, online. Now, I'm not saying I'm aware of anybody doing that. I'm not calling anybody out or anything, but that is a fear that existed, yeah. And it's something that that I was like, oh wow, I didn't realize that there was that level of inventory issue, because we heard about inventory shortages
right.
on product, which was not a surprise given some of the supply chain breakdowns we saw, especially earlier in 2020 with China being offline for a while. But that sense that there could be inventory issues that way, and the ramifications of that was a surprise to me, or new to me, I guess I'd say.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, it's interesting because like you're in a situation like this, and all of a sudden, like hand sanitizer or whatever like item it is you just you can't keep it in stock. But like, mm-hmm. how do you balance meeting the demand at that time, but not going so far beyond mm-hmm. that, and then being stuck with a bunch of stuff you can't move. So that
there's people a lot smarter than us who are paid to try to figure that out. And
exactly what I was going to say. It would take someone a lot smarter than me to figure that out.
Yeah.
We put words on pages, and
yeah. Yeah.
Sometimes they make sense, sometimes it doesn't.
Yeah.
But anyway, okay. So moving on. So what are some of the more positive developments we'll see in 2021? What's some good news for us?
Yeah. I think one of the ones is that e-commerce, within our industry has been rising for years. That's not a surprise. Um, and we're going to see more of that, but it's going to become more democratized. Might be not the perfect word, but close to it, in the sense that the cost of to provide e-commerce solutions to your clients, meaning like online stores and pop-up stores, things of that nature, has come down, and that technology is more accessible to more distributors, and the demand for that with clients is with end clients is higher. So I think you're going to have distributors who in the past maybe weren't doing online stores or weren't doing your quick pop-up type online stores. They're now going to be able to provide that, and it should be a source of considerable revenue and recurring revenue, because it's like an established storefront with a ready-made audience. So I think that's a positive one. And if it's something that you're not doing something with yet, look into it, because there's a lot of providers that can help you really start to compete in the e-commerce game. And to be clear, I don't mean that you're going to be for imprint. I mean that you're going to you're going to be able to provide e-commerce solutions for your clients. So that's a big one.
Maybe at least 2 imprint.
Well, yeah, 2, yeah, half in print. I don't know. So, another one is that I think obviously this year forced everybody to be more creative, think on their feet, and to look how they can. We use that word partner and consultant a lot. But I think in this year it really forced people to try to take on those roles with clients, and we've seen that with the pivot to PPE. We've seen it with how many distributors are now providing drop shipment kitting solutions for their clients, and I think that movement towards providing a wider range of services and solutions to clients is going to be something that really accelerates in 2021. It's already started in 2020, somewhat out of necessity, and it's going to continue. And I think that you're going to see more distributors trying to move into what you might call like adjacent mediums to ours. So yes, print is an obvious one, but many are already in that. But I'm talking about doing things with digital marketing or social media or even content creation, graphic design, stuff like that. More distributors have already been offering those services, and I think the trend toward doing that is going to accelerate, because it just allows you to capture more of your clients' spend, which and you're more of a partner, so it keeps them more loyal. Another one, I'll throw this out there, and some might say that this is a loaded assertion, calling this positive. I don't think it is. I think the focus on sustainability in both how products are created and in the products themselves is going to continue to accelerate as a trend, because there's demand for that in the marketplace, especially with younger buyers, and there's going to be a real push to kind of make those items in a way that's cost effective and cost competitive. And I also think that a lot of lip service gets paid to diversity, but with some of what we've seen over the latter half of 2020, obviously beyond the industry and then within it, there seems to be more of a push towards truly focusing on diversity and diversifying. And frankly, from a business perspective, it makes sense to do that. And I think you're going to see more firms in promo taking a proactive stance on that. A couple others here, I won't go on and on, but another one we're going to see is automation and integration. Efforts towards those things are going to grow. So when I say automate, I mean more companies, or even smaller companies, are going to be looking to find ways to automate processes that save them time and ultimately save them money. I know of one particular screen printer, not by any means a large shop, but they're looking into all kinds of software to automate, with the thinking that this is going to over time drastically reduce their costs, up their productivity. So automation is not just for the big guys; it's for everyone, and people are.
And there's so many like free and very inexpensive tools out there. Just even if you just kind of go piecemeal, there's so many little ways that you can make your day a little bit easier. Like even something as simple as like something that you can send to someone and they'll automatically put your it has your calendar on it, and you can like they can put like the interview time in for you, so you don't have to like go back and forth picking out like making this meeting time. You know what I mean? There's so many different little ways that are not going to cost you a lot of money, but can save you minutes, and then minutes are dollars, and
yes, especially in an industry like ours that's based on quick productivity and volume and everything like that. So expect a lot more with that. And then when I talk about integration, I'm talking about technological integration between companies. There's already a pretty strong movement afoot in our industry to establish integration standards, whereby suppliers and distributors can integrate with each other's systems, which allows for a lot quicker, more automated, more intelligent, more mistake-free order flow and order processing. And I think you're going to see more buy-in on that. I also think you're going to see, particularly with larger distributors, a focus on integration with large end clients. So you're going to have distributors that really are going to tie their technological systems in with their clients in a way that really aims to facilitate large scale high transaction rate orders. And if it's something that you're not doing as a mid to large size distributor, it's good to be aware that a number of your competitors are. So that's another one I found interesting. I'll throw a couple more. Virtual events and virtual recruitment are going to present absolutely huge opportunity. Okay, does the virtual trade show replace the in-person trade show in terms of promo revenue? Probably not. But there's going to be so many of these virtual events proliferating now that there's going to be maybe not the scale of each event might be smaller, but the number of events stands to potentially proliferate. And if you can get yourself involved with more of these events and doing promo for it and doing drop ship solutions, you can make substantial amounts of money.
I imagine also that with these virtual events, as there's more and more of them, some of these companies are going to want to distinguish themselves from the other virtual events out there. So there could be an opportunity to do more branded merch that gets sent out ahead of time, just because they're going to be looking for different ways to like kind of make it fun and make it stand out.
Yeah, totally. And like I'll give you an example. Like say you have a virtual trade show, and within that there's like breakout groups similar to what you might have at an in-person. Each breakout group potentially becomes something where like the sponsor of that particular group can send something out, or like you sign up for this particular session and you get something in return for that. So there's all these little niches and facets related to virtual events that present branding opportunities, and that therefore promo distributors can monetize in a way if you're intelligent about it.
Yeah.
And then virtual recruitment, man, if I was on the front lines of sales at a distributor, I'd be targeting this market in a big way, because there was like a eureka moment for HR and for university recruiters and anybody who's involved in talent acquisition, and that was boy, we could really like vastly expand the web of people that we can add to our company or university through virtual recruiting. Great example of this is Under Armour. They, I think, they're based in Baltimore. They traditionally recruit from 5 or 6, universities in that area. They had this hard pivot to virtual recruitment, and over the last, some odd months, they've expanded that to literally hundreds of schools. So, from which they're trying to recruit, young, talent to join their company. So, as you go about that virtual recruitment, you need to be sticky with those targets, right? And promotional products are a great way to be sticky with those targets. And it presents a huge opportunity for you to service really anybody who's involved in recruitment or talent acquisition in any. And I think we'll see a lot of that, and they'll have budgets to spend because they're not going to be spending them on
travel to get them.
Exactly, and
I was just gonna make that point that that you can, if people are skeptical, like you can approach them, like if they're not flying to all these schools, that's money that could be used for promo.
Yeah, repurpose it for sure.
Yeah, for sure. Now, Melissa also wants to know whether there's a virtual event that you've attended, professional this year, that you think used promo successfully to engage clients. I would say the Power Summit. I mean, obviously we're kind of already that target audience, but I liked
Yeah.
how it was like power up and the there was like a little coaster that lit up when you put the glass on it and the pen that lights up.
That's what I was going to go with, but I guess we're biased. So
I know that's true. I mean, of course we're going to say that. I'm trying to think. I did go to a journalism conference, but the promo was all like you had to pay for it. You had to buy like the T-shirt, and I'm cheap, so I didn't buy a T-shirt.
oh man, you should at least got like a poster or something.
No, you didn't get anything. So, but oh, you know what? I'll say this. So I did just not to like brag, but I'm going to brag. I did just run a marathon for the first time, and it was a virtual one because it was supposed to be the New Jersey one, and it just obviously didn't happen for various obvious reasons. But you did get a nice like box full of like swag. There was like a towel, a nice T-shirt, the medal. Trying to think what else was in there. There was a lot of nice stuff, and it was so exciting to get that like a week or two before we were going to do the actual run. So I think like any kind of like events like that, the races. I knew you had talked about the Boston Marathon and those boxes that people got.
Yeah, that was incredible. That went to it was Juice Marketing out of Seattle. They did literally a worldwide dropship campaign to like I think it was like 33,000 custom boxes to runners in 87 countries for the Boston Marathon. So that just gives you an idea of some of the scale that exists out there. It's pretty cool.
And the other benefit too is the idea of like unboxing experiences on social, right?
Yes,
like so that kind of gives you extra eyeballs. So maybe like people I think just tend to do that on their own, but there's probably ways within the packaging to kind of encourage like tag us on
sure.
Instagram when you unbox it, or do you know what I mean? Like there's ways to like
you put a hashtag on there, like hashtag whatever the event is or whatever you want the hashtag to be, and people get the idea, and if you've provided them with good stuff, they're happy to share that,
Yeah. And it's almost like if you kit it in a way that like is fun to open, it looks really good, like that adds way more to the value too than if you just like got handed a T-shirt at an event. So
for sure.
I mean, like you got to think about like that curated personal experience that people are getting with those boxes, and that could be way more valuable than like a ton of just random shirts or random whatever at an event. Not that there's anything wrong with I like a random shirt at an event, like as much as anyone. But
I agree. It's like getting a Christmas present, right? Like it has that, or a birthday present, whatever you'd like to say. That has that feeling, right?
Yeah. So we talked about like a lot of the positive things that are happening in 2021, but I mean I would imagine we'd be kind of naive to think that it's all going to be positive, considering how difficult this year has been.
Yeah.
So what are some of the biggest challenges you expect in 2021?
All right. Yeah, we wanted to make sure everyone who got the positive stuff first. We don't know how long everybody's going to hang around. So if you're still with us, all right, here's some of the nitty gritty stuff to look out for too. This probably is not a surprise to anybody, but cybersecurity threats are on the rise. They're going to continue to rise, and they're going to become more sophisticated. And really, that's scary, but it's not unmanageable. And kind of the word that we heard from a lot of the industry's best IT executives was that even if you're a small company, you need to invest in the necessary technological infrastructure to keep your data safe, and then you also need to invest in consistent employee training, letting employees know what the current threats in the marketplace are, and training them to be best prepared to not fall prey to that. So, cyber attacks stink. Nobody wants to deal with them. We've seen huge attacks on major companies, Alpha Broder, bag makers, just to name a few, within the last year to year and a half. Those are strong, well-run companies that did unfortunately fall prey to some of these ransomware attacks. And then you've had other companies in our industry very tragically put out of business as a result of cyber attacks. So it's so important to make the necessary investment in cybersecurity, because these attacks are not going away.
Yeah. And nobody's immune. Nobody's immune.
Nobody's immune. And you could have the best system in the world, but if your employees are not trained and they're clicking on something they shouldn't be clicking on, it can make all that for naught. So that employee training component is super important too, and it's something you should definitely focus on. Another one is that consolidation within our industry has been accelerating over the last some odd years, and and that's going to continue probably in a big way in 2021 for a few reasons. Sadly, there's going to just be some companies that try as they might have kind of fought their way through 2020, but the sales levels are just not going to be back to where they need to be, and they're going to exit the industry most likely. There's also going to be a push for smaller, less capitalized firms to join anything from what I would call like distributor networks, like your Proformas of the world, your AIAs, your I Promote Yous. Everybody's familiar with who these organizations are, because they can provide the kind of scaled back-end supports and relationships that help smaller firms be competitive. It's definitely not right for anybody. This is not an advertisement. I'm not advocating that anybody do it, but I'm just saying it's a reality that more are looking to now do that. I should just be clear on that. I think you're going to see similar things with buying groups where smaller to mid-sized distributors say, hey, I want my independence. I don't want to be part of a distributor network. I don't want to be acquired by a large distributor, but I do need some of these, relationships and pricing advantages that I could get through a buying group. So I think you're going to have increased interest in buying group. So you add all those factors up, it translates to it translates into a consolidation of power and spend, right? There'll be less companies, at least for a time, in the industry, and then there's companies that do exist might be affiliated with larger networks or organizations. So it's a consolidation. Also, you have private equity money still very interested in our industry, and they're going to continue to be, even with the setback of COVID. I think there's a lot out there that see a chance to potentially buy low and exit high in a few years with promo, especially given how fragmented our industry is. So you could expect more of that as well.
Yeah, I think another thing too is that maybe some people that own a distributorship that are maybe older, like this might be a great time to they might determine that this is the time to like retire and be done with it, just because it's been a very difficult year, and like maybe that just sort of took it out of them.
Yeah, it's true, right? I mean, I forget this exact stats, but I saw them not long ago, and it was about you have the many in the baby boomer generation are kind of reaching that age where, like, if they were business owners, they're saying, hey, now, like, it's been a good run. It's time for me to to exit out of this now, and they're looking for sales. So, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's just a natural progression of things, and it's we could see more of that. So
yeah.
So that's a big one. Couple others. We mentioned the inventory issue. There is concerns that there'll still be some inventory issues related to not enough stock, particularly as it relates to apparel in certain apparel sizes and color. That's a kind of a continued fallout from the COVID shutdowns in China way back in February. I'm sure everybody, it seems like 10 years ago, but
maybe I aged 10 years in the last.
Yeah, it feels like it. It feels like it, right? So there's some fallout there too. I won't go over some of the inventory issues, overstock, but that's something to be aware of as well.
I'm sorry. I don't know if you hear that. My dog is like whining and sneezing at me. I apologize for that.
Yeah, it's all right. This is one of the first live/podcasts I've done in a while where my cat hasn't come and meowed for me to feed. This time wisely we have the dogs in another room for once. So
yeah, that was smart.
Yeah. I'm not usually that much that good with the forethought, but this time around, hooray.
Anyway.
Yeah.
So are there any other challenges that you wanted to highlight? I feel like we kind of went over a goodly portion of the story and the highlights.
I'll give a couple quick ones, and I won't go on, and I'll end on a good one. So marketers' budgets, they're going to be tough to navigate, and there's going to be a lot of competition for spend. So it's going to be really important to prove the value of promotional products. So when I say competition for spend, I don't just mean with other distributors. I mean with other marketing mediums as well. So ASI has a ton of good data about the cost effectiveness of promotional products and the advertising value of promotional products. So I would use a lot of that, and supported by anecdotal examples in your marketing. Also going to be some staffing headaches this year, probably too. With just, in the sense that a lot of people were, let go, and now you might be hiring new people on. So there's going to be training and getting up to speed on the industry kind of stuff. But also staffing presents a really nice, huge opportunity on a lot of levels. Because a lot of talent was let go, sadly, last year, there's a lot of really good, talented people out there that you can add to your ranks, that are looking for positions. So it would be, if you are looking to hire, you're going to have a pick of some good people out there. So, that's one good thing. Another thing is, and this ties into the virtual recruitment that we talked about before, is that, companies across industries, as we kind of emerge from this COVID winter, literally, it's they're going to be looking to hire and restock their forces, not just sales, their workforces in general, to move their businesses forward. And I think with that, there's going to become a lot of opportunities for sales with recruitment and new hire packages and things like that. And I could blah 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 all day about this, but I think that's probably a lot of good ones to go over.
Yeah, for sure. I just wanted to mention we have another comment from Javier about rules for 2021. He says, double down on relationship building, not selling product. And don't be afraid to pitch creative ideas you would not have pitched before. Different is better these days. And I think those are both really good points for sure, because, why not be creative right now? Because everything is kind of topsy-turvy. This is the time to have big kind of bold ideas that you couldn't try before. But at this point, why not? Why not?
Yes, great. And Javi makes a great point, because that our industry has always been relationship based with sales, and I think that's more so important now than ever. And so if you could be human to your clients and be likable and also help them with their businesses, that's gonna make loyalty a lot more likely.
Okay. Well, I think we're going to kind of wrap up now, unless there's anyone else that wants to comment or has something that they want to share, ask, any insights, whatnot. This would be the time. But this was a really interesting discussion about 2021 and what we can kind of look forward to, things we have to look out for, and just what the future possibly will hold. I mean, obviously, as we know from this year, making predictions is sometimes a really bad idea, because
Oh yes.
it could really blow up in your face. But based on the information we have now, and based on what leaders in the industry said, this is what to look out for next year. So thanks so much for taking a couple minutes to talk with us today, Chris.
Yeah,
and
thanks for hosting.
yeah. So everybody have a great day. And once again, this is Promo Insiders, and I'm Teresa Hagel. Thanks for listening.
Thanks, guys.